Hey everybody, I'd like to introduce you a KenMcElroy.com advisor, my good friend and attorney, Mauricio Rauld.
Thanks for having me, buddy.
How are you, brother?
Good.
So we go way back, and Mauricio is the founder and CEO of the Premier Law Group, which is a premier boutique securities law firm. As a nationally recognized expert on private placements, Mauricio works with elite entrepreneurs who seek to increase and protect their wealth through syndications. With over 20 years of experience, Mauricio knows everything there is to know about syndication. More importantly, he's able to take very complex legal subjects and make them very easy to understand. So you'll see a lot of videos featuring Mauricio's expertise on YouTube, in mini courses, and of course in my premium membership. Mauricio, welcome to the KenMcElroy.com family.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. Thanks guys for watching, and thanks for your feedback on getting someone here on the legal team.
Hey guys, it's Mauricio, and today we're going to talk about what is a syndication. You know, in its most simplest form, a syndication is simply the pooling of resources, mostly money, but as we'll talk about in a second, it can be other things as well. But it's simply the pooling of resources to buy something. Now, in our world, that something is usually real estate, but it doesn't have to be real estate. It can be, you know, cryptocurrencies, it can be a business, it can be pretty much anything you want. But the idea is you're taking other people's money, combining it with your talents, and then buying something bigger. So, for example, in our world, in the real estate world, you can have something as simple as a piece of property, for example. You can have a piece of property that you want to purchase that's, let's say, $100,000. You got 4 of your buddies that put in $25K, and then you do all the work, and you split everything 5 ways. So this way, you've put in all the time, the knowledge, the energy to put the deal together, and everybody else is passively invested. Then that is what we call a syndication. From a legal perspective, a syndication is actually a securities offering, which is a little bit weird. In fact, one of the biggest questions I always get is, Mauricio, you know, why is the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, even involved in my property transaction? I'm just here buying a piece of property. Why do I have to worry about securities laws? Why do I have to worry about the Securities and Exchange Commission? And the reason we worry about these things is that a syndication or a securities offering, the definition of that is super broad. Most of us think of securities offerings or a syndication as sort of stocks and bonds and maybe mutual funds, but it can involve other things like profit sharing agreements, or maybe tenants in common agreements, or, you know, side contracts, high fives, you know, handshakes. It doesn't matter. The structure itself of a syndication does not matter. What's important from a legal standpoint is anytime you're taking money from individuals where the individuals are expecting a return, and that return is generated by your efforts. So in this case, you're putting the deal together and everybody else is just along for the ride. They're passive and you're active. That is the textbook definition of a security, and the structure itself does not matter. This is probably one of the big hang-ups that new syndicators make. They don't realize that they're actually doing a syndication because, again, they just think they're buying a property. But anytime, I'm going to repeat it, anytime you take money from passive investors where the returns are being generated by your efforts, you are dealing with a security or a syndication. It's very important to understand. Now, once you understand that, then there's 3 things you really need to think about in the syndication world. Number 1 is you will have to either register your syndication with the SEC, or, let me get this fancy thing going here. Number 2, you're going to have to look for an exemption to that registration. Or, number 3, it's illegal. So once you understand that you're dealing with a securities offering, you're either going to register that security with the SEC, find an exemption to registration, or it's illegal. Now, for now, we're not going to talk about registration or it's illegal. Just trust me on that. We don't want to do that. What we're usually looking for is an exemption to registration, which is where you've probably heard the terms like 506B, 506C, Reg A, which we're not going to talk about right now because we're going to leave that for a future video. But these are sort of the 3 important things you need to realize when you are in fact doing a syndication. Now, going back to our original example, what about joint ventures? That's probably another big question I get is a joint venture a syndication? Like, why would I do a syndication if I can do a joint venture? And the important thing to understand is, just like our friend Tom Wheelwright likes to say in the tax world, if you want to change your tax, you've got to change your facts. Same thing here. If you want to change your syndication to a joint venture, you have to change your facts because you don't get to make that decision. You don't get to decide whether something's a securities offering or a syndication or a joint venture. The facts are the facts. And so in order for it to be a joint venture, everybody has to be actively involved, because the idea is that not one person is the one generating the returns, but all 5 of you in this particular case, or all of the investors, are generating the returns. You don't really have investors in the joint venture, you have partners, right? Because everybody's coming in and doing the work. So as long as everybody in that enterprise, in that joint venture, is actively involved, then you have a joint venture. But what I see time and time again is people really doing syndication and securities offering, but deciding to just call it a joint venture in order to avoid all the federal and state securities laws. But the important thing to remember is that you don't get to make that decision. It is what it is. It's either a joint venture or it's a syndication. So hopefully that's been valuable for you guys, and I'm looking forward to the next video.